Franz Peter Schubert, a man that forever changed the history of music as we know it.
He was hatched January 31st in 1797 and died November 19th, 1828.
He was born in Himmelpfortsgrund, which is now a part of Algernon, Vienna.
His music was the transition between the classical and the romantic period.
Let's take a look at these significant events in Schubert's life that helped shape the style that we still know and love today. Okay, so here are some of the significant events that happened in Schubert's life. First, the trumpet gets valves, which is important to his life because that will influence the way that he writes his symphonies.
Beethoven performs the Moonlight Sonata for the first time. This is important because Beethoven was a big part of Schubert's writing style.
Okay, there were a lot of independence movements around the world which influenced his music because his music summed up the way that people were feeling during this time.
During Schubert's life, the French Revolution ended, which was important to many people in Europe.
During this time, Antarctica was discovered, which influenced his music because people were feeling new wonders about the world, like they didn't know everything that was around them. It made new feelings of wonder in the people.
During Schubert's life, the Spanish Empire collapsed, which was important to Schubert because many people were influenced and he wanted to write about the influences of the people during this time.
During his time, railroads were introduced, which were helpful for the spread of his music.
During his life, the Industrial Revolution began, which is important because people were getting more money and people were happier, so he would just change his writing style to suit what was going on.
During this time, slavery was reduced worldwide, which was important because he was writing about the liberation of the slaves.
During this time period, the Haitian Revolution was successful, which influenced many of the Spanish people and other people around the area, and he wrote in order to write about how people were feeling about the success of the revolution.
And in this time, morphine was first isolated, which was probably important during the end of his life where he was dying and he was in a lot of pain, and then that probably influenced the way that he was writing his music.
During his life, the Austrian Empire was founded by Francis I, which is important because he lived in Austria, so the new government was important.
Let's listen to an example of Schubert's earlier works, such as this, which is the Symphony No. 1, the first symphony that he ever wrote. Boring! Let's take a look at why this music was so darn boring. Okay, first, his music had potential, but he just failed to execute in his composition.
He took a lot of risks, but at the time that he wrote it, they just weren't very popular with the people.
His music was influenced by Mozart and Beethoven, but since he was a new composer, he didn't really know how to take his style and combine it with theirs.
He had a very structured style with a development of the melody.
But there wasn't a lot of dynamics or variation in the music.
Many people thought that his music was not very thought-provoking or very emotional.
The music had like a dull quality to it, which was very boring to the listeners.
the people that listened to it, since it was so dull and boring and it wasn't very thought-provoking, people thought that it didn't really stand out.
He was trying to broaden the classical spectrum of music, but he wasn't successful in this endeavor. Okay, this is one of Schubert's later pieces called the Cello Quintet, which is the piece that made Miss Barnett fall in love with music. Now that's more like it! Let's discuss why this piece of music is so much better than Symphony No. 1. Okay, so first of all, this music is passionate and emotional.
Schubert used major and minor key shifts to evoke powerful feelings in his listeners.
Groundbreaking harmonious writings were first used.
He had lots of variation and style changes in his later music.
His melody was dramatic and multitudinous.
He used unique instrumentation which became extremely popular with the people.
And this piece of music led to amazing unfinished symphonies throughout the rest of his life. Enough of the boring, John. Let's get to the stuff you really want to know. What happened in the personal life of Franz Peter Schubert?
Schubert, born 1797 in Himmelpfortgrund, Austria. Schubert started school at age 5. They grow up so quickly. Michael Holzer was Schubert's first music teacher. Schubert was learning how to play the viola. No, Franz, you need to focus. Yeah. Play it right. Famous musician Antonio Salieri realizes Schubert's musical talents with singing. Schubert, wait. I'm Antonio Salieri and you can sing. I'm gonna make a famous person out of you. Schubert's writing genius became more well known after a family friend took him across the street to a pianoforte shop.
I'm sexy and I know it.
Nicknamed Tubby or Little Mushroom because of how much he weighed.
I'm sexy and I know it.
Oh, I like it though. That's me.
Yeah, when I'm at the mall, security just can't fire them all. And when I'm at the beach, I'm in the speedo trying to tan my cheeks.
As soon as Schubert was a young adult, he started teaching students the ways of music that were like his own.
Now you see, place your thumb on D like this. No, that's D. There you go. That's it. Very nice, very nice. I like that very much. Some say that Schubert got a little too close with his students. Little girls and little boys.
Franz Peter Schubert was no revolutionary, but suspicions were high and he was arrested because of these suspicions.
You know, the French Revolution, you know.
Put your hands where I can see.
It's okay, guys. I got out of jail safely.
By the end of his writing career, Schubert had written many symphonies, like his unfinished symphony, Winter Ice, 2 piano trios, and a cello quintet.
You see, I only lived a good 31 years. But in that lifetime, I made it count. I almost wrote 1,000 symphonies. You know what? That's an accomplishment. You know what? YOLO. Tragically, Schubert died at the young age of 31 due to a tragic accident in which his hand was severed from his body. I know. I'm just kidding. He got an STD. I'm gonna vom. And typhoid fever. You know, the two don't really have a good mix. They have a secret. Remember how he used to sleep with his kids? Well, got a little bit too busy there, didn't he? Schubert. Naughty Schubert. Well, you got what was coming to you, didn't you? Actually, you know what? Everything I just said was a big joke. Schubert died because he drowned. Just kidding. I didn't really drown. I really got STD and I got typhoid fever and then I died tragically at age 31. Whoop-de-doo. Okay, end the story. Schubert is dead.
In his death, Schubert was buried next to Beethoven. On his gravestone, they had written, "Here music has buried a treasure, but even fairer hopes."
You know what? Schubert doesn't die.
Schubert's music is so popular after his death because its emotional, deep, passionate qualities that people came to know and love are always going to be there. In addition, his unique instrumentation that gave the melody to other instruments than the first violin intrigued his listeners and still does today.
Doses!